Is Miss Charlery with us? Hello? Miss Charlery is on the line as we are scheduled to have a very interesting discussion this morning, talking about the Creole language and culture, focusing on where we've come from, where we are at present day, and where we would like to see the language in the future. Miss Charlery, I'm told, is back online with us. Good morning again, Miss Charlery.
Good morning again.
Thanks for staying on, and thanks for being so patient.
You're most welcome.
You were starting off by registering your family ties with the Queen of Culture, Sesenne Descartes.
Okay, Sesenne Descartes is my father's sister. So Sesenne Descartes is my aunt.
So you're well aligned to the culture yourself.
Well, I spent many years with my father. My father died at 88, so I had a lot of years growing up with him and been around Sesenne for a very long time until passing. So, and there are other members of my family that are musically oriented, who have strong ties with both culture.
Yeah, yourself as well. But thanks for registering that to begin. How important do you see the Creole language to our culture and to our identity as a people? Okay,
I think the Creole language is very, very, very important to us as people, right? It is a language that identifies with our identity, with everything. It is very much ingrained. Before, it was very much ingrained in the everyday life of the people. You could see the culture in songs, in prayers, in artwork, in medicine, food, storytelling, etc., to name a few, you know. The people were very much alive in showing appreciation for the culture and what it stands for. And people like me was able to learn a lot of the Creole language because I was very much around people who are older than me, people who appreciated who they are, where they were going, where they're coming from, and to appreciate also what others have handed down to them. And I think for us, that's what we too must do, because if we do not pass on what has been passed on to us, then there is something that we are losing.
Absolutely.
I think as a language, it's very important for us to recognize that, you know, reading and writing of the Creole language, it helps to promote cultural capital. It preserves our ideas. It facilitates communication without having to be present. It helps to generate thinking, and it helps to build up our confidence, our self-esteem, as I said, an avenue to pass on the history. And it makes thinking visible. It is very, very important for us to record what is ours, because if we do not do that, we will lose it as time goes by. We need to find some way of preserving it.
Absolutely, and we'll talk just a bit on some of your suggestions and recommendations in how we can preserve the language. So as you termed it, we can cash in on the cultural capital it provides us. But yourself, a retired educator, some 30 plus years as a teacher and 10 years as a principal as well. Your experience in that field, what are your own observations and reflections on the interface between the learning process and the underlying Creole influences within students?
Well, I think right now more effort should be made towards getting people more aware of what the language stands for and what it is in terms of learning it and speaking it as well. Because in the schools, you know, it was not an official thing for the Creole language to be taught in the schools. Now an effort is being made so that can be done. I mean, we could have had little sessions and little classes in Creole, but it was not anything official, because the language gets its value. If we say we are bilingual, the same strength that the English language has, the Creole language should also have that same strength for it to be recognized and for a greater effort to be made to push it forward by us and by those in authority. Because if that is not done, it will continue to just linger on. A lot of talk is being done, but it's important not just to talk about promoting the Creole language, to make efforts so that it can be promoted by making people see how important it is trying to pass it on, trying to allow people to learn the language. Some time ago, the Folk Research Center had done some moves with that, and we had a group in Repos who was part and parcel of learning to speak and write the Creole language, and also a group in Mikwood. And it was also aligned with helping to promote the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. And so people could link that to the everyday life and learning of the language and writing of the language. So these are some of the ways in which we can do that, you know, in little groups, in our little groups, in our little clubs, in schools, in different workplaces, you know, so that it can be part and parcel of the daily living.
Yeah. When I listen to you, Ms. Charlery, I'm understanding from your presentation that it begins with recognition, national recognition of the value of the language.
Very much so.
So that it can pass on to the other generations. Because when you listen to people, it comes as a secondary language, and some people even view it as a forbidden language. We must begin by giving it that level of prominence that you speak of.
Yes, that is very much so, because the language by itself, you know, people look at it as it's something by the wayside. It's not by the wayside. It has everything that the language has, a writing system, a speaking system, everything of that nature. So we need to really recognize that, as you rightfully said. I cannot agree with you more than that. If we have this Creole saying that apprécier sauni, we need to appreciate what we have. If we don't appreciate what we have, we will not be able to recognize its importance and its values. You know, it is only when we do that, we can develop a greater appreciation for it, and we can help to pass it on. Because before you see, like I always said, in the neighborhood, watch, care for children, a whole village would be raising a child. That is part and parcel of our cultural concern. There was simplicity, values, morals, you know, like a whole village would be raising a child. So if something is lapsing from the mother and the father, then others would take it on. There was a sense of simplicity, values, our morals, good character, greeting people, respect, and all of that came out of a sense of even humility and appreciation of who we are and what we are. It's not just in the material things. There is so much richness in what is ours, you know, that if we don't value that, and if we don't recognize how important that is, as I said before, we're going to lose it. And it is left to, you know, all of us to make that effort. And as I said before, on a national level, some recognition needs to come from the top to go down, and from down to go up as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to go both ways if we really are to make some headway with the language here on St. Lucia. You spoke in your introduction of the language being cultural capital for us. Beyond the shores of St. Lucia, what benefits do you see kweyol having for us as small island people?
Well, there are many other countries that speak the Creole language, right? And I think at one point there was some effort to make that linkage to the different countries that speak Creole. There can be exchanges. There can be like one country go to the other country come to the country, and we can pass on what we have in our songs, in our dances, in our storytelling, in our art, in our food, in our medicine. There is so much. Even this year, as we have Culture Hills, there are so many different local medicines that our Creole people grew up teaching us about, for the cold, for headaches, for different sicknesses, you know. And if we have to promote our Creole language both here and abroad, our people, as I said, has to develop an appreciation so that we can have linkages, you know. And this can bring capital to our own country, right? When people go abroad, it's like our artists going away to perform, right? We can go to show what we have, to exhibit, you know, and this can generate knowledge. This can generate our promotion of what we have that belongs to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Share with us now your experience and your efforts to inculcate literacy in the Creole language. What are some of the challenges that you found?
Many people, as as I have been saying, that it is so difficult to read and write the Creole language. And it is not so. With my experience of having to learn myself and passing it on to others, we write the Creole language as we speak. And a lot of people, even though they can speak Creole, are kind of fearful. But, it's just yesterday I was having just a little session. We gathered in the retired people association, right? And I was doing just a little session with them, and to see that we write as we speak. We say, like, let's say with the letter A, we have wa, we have wa, we have wa. We say we have a didan, we have a twe, we have a ko, and all the different. It is not difficult because we write it as it sounds. So it is not so difficult. But there are some people who have not been au courant with the Creole language, in that they've not been speaking it, and from it has to be taught. It is not so difficult to teach it because we are in an environment that the language is spoken in. When we are immersed in the language, of course, if we do not make an effort, we will not learn it. But if we are immersed in the language and it is practiced and it is taught, as we said before, if we know its value and its significance, we will make effort. And our young people coming up, we need to let them understand that. We need to let the adults who are already there understand that as well. So together with that kind of understanding, that kind of appreciation, that kind of holding up the language, lifting it up, respecting it, promoting it, will help us to achieve this thing.
Yeah. The Focus Research Center, as you said earlier, has made some efforts to improve literacy in the language, and some small steps being made on the education front as well. Do you think now is the time, as a retired educator, for us to have the Kweyol adopted officially as a language, as part of the school curriculum?
Oh yes, very much so, very much so. And I think if this is done, this is way past the time. It's like we're doing it now, and that is good. That is a very good effort to do it now. It's very good to do so now. But it's way past the time. We are way ahead behind time. And if we're going to make a start now, that's important. And as you said, if that effort is being made as is right now, they're talking about it, they're trying to develop it, it would be a good thing, because if it is taught in our school, if we say it is important, and we do not want to teach it in our school, and we teach French, we teach Spanish, we teach other languages, and what is ours, we don't make an effort. So if that is done, that will be a good way to help people to understand, well, they're not just talking about it, but they're doing something. Because remember, as I said, the strength of a language, if we say that we are bilingual, the strength that the English has, the Creole needs to have that same strength, so that we can push forward and we can see the development and appreciation for the language.
Why did we take that left turn, Ms. Charlery, to adopt other languages officially, French, Spanish, and others, and not have our own Kweyol as part of the mix? Where did we make that shift?
Why did we make that shift, you're saying?
Where and why, yes.
I suppose, I suppose because maybe during the time that was done, there probably was not a lot of material available so that we could push it forward. And maybe for these other countries, they had their thing well established, well recorded, and there had been a sense of appreciation so that it could be written, it could be spoken, it could be learned. But for us, maybe we made that step very late. And anyway, as late as it is never too late.
Absolutely.
We need to make a start somewhere. And as I continue to say this, because probably we did not see its value, right? We missed the mark, and we did not appreciate it, because when you have something that you really appreciate, you seek to preserve it. You want its continuity, you want to see it pass on, because what others have given to us, we will be making a big mistake if we do not pass it on. Yes, we need to evolve with creativity, with new things. We need to differentiate. We need to see how we can enhance. We need to see how we can make changes. But at the same time, we need to preserve richness of what we get. Because if we do not do that, we have our environment. And today it's been destroyed because we have not learned to appreciate it fully. And the same will go for our language as well if we do not do that.
Yeah. We spoke about adopting it within the education curriculum, but to give it prominence and the respect that you and I think it deserves, how about at the highest level? We know that there has been a Creole translation of the national anthem, but that's hardly, if ever, used.
Yes.
In the parliament, we rarely see the Creole used, if not for a rural member of parliament utilizing it as part of their presentation. Doesn't it have to be adopted at these levels? So you have official state functions. The anthem should be played in both English and Creole, you think?
Yes, yes. I have attended some functions where I've heard the national anthem be sung in Creole, right? But as you rightfully said, it's not that many functions. So for us to promote it, it has to be more frequent. People also have to get to learn it before, because I remember I was at one function, and while it's being sung there, it's like some people were learning it at the same time, and some people were hearing it for the first time. So if we publicize it, we print it, we have people learning it. So when these opportunities arise, people will be very familiar. It's like we can say our ABC, and like we can say our own national anthem in English. So if we learn it, and if it is taught, then when these activities are on, people will be very prepared. They have the prerequisites to be able to do it, to be able to participate, to be able to engage fully.
Who takes the lead in this, or do we all have a stake and a role to play?
Well, of course, the authorities have to take the lead, but all of us have a responsibility to in our little corners, you know, like in our little corners, we can see how we can help to promote in little ways, you know. I remember when I was at my school before, we had competitions. We had competitions for the children and also for the parents, you know, little things. We organize little activities where the Creole language can be promoted, where our exhibits can be promoted, our different things that I have said before, our medicines, our food, you know, our tools, our everything, you know, have places. Well, right now, into the process of, it has been started for a long time at the Sesenne space to be developed as a museum. There are items there, but then the whole process of it being finalized, that has not been, so it is still a work in progress, but something has started where people can come and people can view the exhibits and so on. Right now they're working on that. As I said, it's a work in progress, but it has to be continued. And maybe when that will be in full form, you know, that may be a help, and even the whole area creating some form of not just the museum, but a holistic thing with the community and the museum, so that people can participate and feel that they are part and parcel of what is happening.
Yeah. Finally, for me, to you, Miss Charlery, how can we continue to accelerate our movement along this path, give the language more prominence? In
How
St.
can we
Lucia?
continue to do what?
How can we continue to accelerate our movement along this road, along this journey to give language more prominence?
Learning it ourselves, participating in activities, promoting activities, being involved, as I said, in our little ways, in our schools, in our places, in our churches, in our community. Like, for example, when it's Journée Creole, yesterday is a whole church service. The readings are done in it, the readings are done in it, the songs are done in it, and this should not only be done only when it's Journée Creole, but off and on that can be done. Off and on activities can be organized. Like, people can do their own form of writing and promoting it, right? For example, like some years ago, I wrote a song. You know, my sister has written songs, and many other people have written songs. Which has come out with a little booklet, Chanson, Eclipse, and Kweyol. They had done the first edition. It was read by Marilyn Hyacinth and Pastor Walton Charles, and a lot of the Creole songs, the prayers, the readings are part and parcel of this little book. People can purchase this. They can purchase the Creole dictionary, right? And they can avail themselves for opportunities that arise, that they can learn it. Because when we were doing this teaching of the Creole, a community. There's a community in Babono, there's a community in Repos and Nikud, and some communities they were not able to come on board because people around could not rally people, but we rallied people so that they could see the importance in coming and do it. We rallied in Nikud, and other communities can do that so that there can be a greater effort to push forward the language.
Absolutely. Michelle, I want to thank you for coming on this morning. Rich presentation, valuable, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I know it was of value to a number of our listeners as well. So thank you for coming on with your contribution this morning.
Thank you so much, and it was a pleasure. Thanks, everyone.
Pleasure was ours. Miss Sylvia Charlery, retired educator, coming in our first part of the discussion on the Creole language and culture, where it was, where it is now, and where we as a people like to see it in the coming years. Obviously, the point made by my last contributor is there's need for greater prominence and acceptance, respect for the Creole language. How do we begin? We begin with ourselves learning the language and speaking the language more frequently. My next scheduled guest is already standing by. Stay with us. When we return, I'll give you an opportunity to win a ticket to this Saturday's Black Hat Football Finals. Again, if you missed the question yesterday, the question is, in what year did Ancillary last win Black Hat? In what year did Ancillary win the Black Hat tournament? You call us at 45007777, 45007777, and I will give you an opportunity to answer the question. You answer correctly, we give you a ticket to this coming Saturday's finals at the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground. Good morning. It's a vibe at sunrise with yours truly, Shannon the Bond.